Welcome back to the Mother's Polished Car Show series, coming to you this week from Jim Grundy's personal car collection. Hello again, everyone. I'm Ted Jones, joined by Jim Grundy, who's president of Grundy Worldwide. And we have another car for you right here. It's called a Pullman. I know very little about it, except I do know from talking to Jim before we went back on the air that it has a great significance in your family.
It sure does, Ted. The Pullman Carriage Works was a company in York, Pennsylvania that once believed it was going to be the Detroit of the automobile industry. My great-grandfather, in other words, Samuel Bailey I, the father of the man who owned the Pierce Arrow we looked at earlier, bought the Pullman Carriage Works and converted it to an automobile manufacturing company in 1906 and built automobiles like this one for 20 years. Funny thing about Granddad, though, was he never rode in one. He looked at a car and said, who in the world would want to sit behind this fire-breathing, explosive monster of an engine when they could have the safety of a horse in front of them? So his Pullman was cut off right here, a yoke on the front and a horse to tow it.
Tell us a little bit more about the car, like the engine.
Well, the engine's another one of what's called the T-head configuration. It's not quite as big as the one in the Pierce Arrow, but it'll still roll along at 40, 45 miles an hour.
Now, speaking of 45 miles per hour, these cars are absolutely immaculate, so obviously you never drive them.
Oh, Ted, I beg to differ. If you look closely at this badge, it won its AACA medal in 1993, and we've driven it thousands and thousands of miles, not in total, every year.
Oh, but now wait a minute. With collector car insurance, isn't there a limit to how many miles you can drive one of these collector cars?
Not with Grundy Worldwide. When my dad started the hobby, these were the only collector cars. And as you might well imagine, they don't have odometers. So although some other companies do have mileage restrictions, at Grundy you're free to use your car and we want you to enjoy it, just like I do with all these cars.
Even if my 427 Camaro or something like that, a really performance car.
Absolutely, and I've got a couple performance cars too, I'll show you in a little bit.
Okay, well, that answers a neat question. There's no mileage limitation. Now, the question is, a car this valuable, just how valuable is it?
So how much insurance do I really need? Take it for an example, the 67 Camaro that I wish I had that's valued at $30,000. You know, Chuck, I'm a really good driver, take really good care of my stuff. So, you know, I might just ding a fender or something like that. Do I really need the 30, or can I go just like with 15,000 in coverage?
You should insure for the true value of the vehicle, the 30,000. Unfortunately, the way it works in the insurance business, if that vehicle is 80% damaged, okay, there's a good chance that you would lose your vehicle and we would have to total out the car.
Over a fender, huh?
Over a fender.
Wow. Okay, so, you know, we're talking about a very reasonable price here. But is there anything else that comes along with it? I mean, do I need to buy any other type of insurance? What if we're on a trip somewhere, you know, to show the car or something and breaks down alongside of the road?
Yeah, our policy includes the towing, and it also includes a trip interruption, which means we will pay for your hotel room and meals for that night until your vehicle is repaired and you can get back on the road.
That's fantastic. All of that, plus the car's covered for the agreed value, and we're only talking about just a little over a couple $100 a year. That should answer your question and how much insurance that you need to cover your collector vehicle.
The Lincoln Tech Classroom is now in session as we join students in learning how to restore a muscle car at the Indianapolis campus of Lincoln Technical Institute. Your future now.
All right, guys, our next job is strip this down. As far as moldings, windows, interior, when you take it down, just get it ready for sandblasting. All right, we just got back from Indy powder coating, and the frame is probably just going in the booth now, getting baked about, 450 degrees. And meanwhile, this car came back from IDS sandblasting, and we get a little better idea what we have. Our quarters, it looks a little bit rougher than what we had before. Yeah, the quarters definitely need to be replaced. You can see it had moldings here going across. We got inners and outers here gone. The outer wheelhouse is gone. We'll have to replace the outer wheelhouse, the inner wheelhouse, and the trunk floor is pretty punky and Swiss cheesed in there. We'll be replacing that also. Deck lid is pretty bad across the back. We're going to be looking at availability of parts for that also. Up here, we've got the floor pan. You see a lot of Swiss cheese in here. Guys, we'll probably end up replacing that whole floor pan complete. That's it. I believe our first step here is going to be probably washing the soda blast off of this and getting some epoxy primer on it.
Coming up next on the Mother's Polished Car Show series, a race car, a very unusual race car. This car actually ran in one of the most famous races in the world. To find out more, stay tuned.